With Summit being the last major event of 2017, the rankings of the top 10 players have for a large part been set in stone for the year. So let's take a look at who I currently believe to be a top 10 player, how far the gap between each rank is, and what the likelihood is for change in this last month of Melee. So alongside listing where I think each player should be ranked on the list, I'm also going to include a gap value which attempts to give a rough estimate on how far back from the next ranking each player is. The value spans from 0 to 1, with 0 meaning that a player is nearly the same rank as the player above them, and 1 meaning that there's an enormous gap between the two players. So with all that understood, let's start off with the best and second best players in the world, Hungrybox and Armada. I've made a whole video on the debate between Armada and Hungrybox for this year, so I won't go too in-depth on this subject, but check out that video if you want a deeper insight on their performances for this year. But with Hungrybox's win at Summit, I think he has finally edged his way over Armada for the year. Hungrybox now does not have a single losing record against any player this year and has won his last 5 sets in a row against Armada. And Armada is the clear choice for second with his wins at EVO, Genesis 4, and Spring Summit, and his near complete domination for the first half of the year of Melee. If there are more major events left in the year, Armada could have totally taken back his crown as number 1 for the year. But without anything drastic happening, I think the number 1 and 2 spots for this year are pretty secure. I also think this is true for the third slot on the list, Mango. Barring Smash Rivals and Smash Summit Spring, Mango has had a solid year with wins at Royal Flush and Smash God, and second place finishes at Genesis and EVO. But his level of consistency and peaks pales in comparison to Hungrybox and Armada, so there is a significant gap between the second and third spots. Near the middle of the year, people were talking about Mango possibly being the second best in the world, so I don't think this gap is by any means insurmountable for Mango in 2018. But with the way both Armada and Hungrybox have stepped up their game, it's going to take a lot of work. After those 3 rankings that are pretty much set for the year, we move on to 4th and 5th place, which are hotly contested by Mewtwo and Plup, and still have the potential to change by the end of the year. I've also made a video on this topic, but it does not include 3 recent events that have caused some people to change their opinions: DreamHack Denver, Canada Cup, and Smash Summit. At DreamHack Denver, Mewtwo placed 7th after losses to both Axe and Chew, who both seem to have Mewtwo number recently. Then his amazing win at Canada Cup added to his argument for 4th place, as he won his first ever tournament over Armada and double eliminated Leppin in Grands. Whereas his 9th place summer performance took away from it, as he went 2 and 3 at the event with 2 losses to Axe and 1 to SVAT. Even after these 2 performances, Mewtwo is still 4th by a slim margin. This largely has to do with his consistent outplacement of Plup throughout the year and having not as bad losses as him. I do completely understand and see the merits of the argument for Plup being 4th just because of how small the gap is. A breakout performance by either of the 2 at any of the smaller events left in the year, or a single bad loss outside the top 10 could be enough to shift the tide one way or another, so keep your eye on these 2 players as we finish out 2017. Then we come over to the 6th place spot, which is held firmly by Europe's second best player, Leffen. Leffen won 2 big events over Hungrybox on this Melee It On Me year, with Don't Park on the Grass and Gamo, and has only missed top 8 at 4 of the 19 major events he has attended this year. He's also the only person besides Hungrybox to have set wins over Armada in more than one event. But he's also had some bad losses this year, with the most notable being to Lovage at GTX, which is easily the worst loss out of anyone in the top 10. Leffen may have fallen 1 spot on this year's ranking, but he's not too far behind Mewtwo and Plup, which leaves a bright future ahead for him in 2018. Much like the 4th place slot, 7th has been greatly contested between Axe and SVAT throughout the year. There's been 13 events this year that they have both attended, with SVAT just beating out Axe by placing better than him at 7 of these events. Also across these events, Axe has an average placing of about 7.615, whereas SVAT has an average placing of 6. But it's always important to remember that placings don't mean everything. Take EVO, where Axe placed 2 spots lower but had much better losses. Or Super Smash Con, where there's only 2 places between the 2, but Axe lost to 2 gods. Or even the Big House, where SVAT lost to 2 top 10 players and got 9th, and Axe lost to 13th and 37th best and got 17th. So when the dust settles, I call this about even when accounting for variation in losses and brackets. Now let's move on to best wins and worst losses for each player. Both have wins against 2 gods and a large majority of the current top 15. SVAT appears to have a greater quantity of wins against these players, and the quality of these wins are about the same, so I give a very minor edge to SVAT in this regard. As for worst losses, Axe is the clear victor in this category, with his worst notable losses being to Ryan Ford, Android, and Meds, which are much lesser than SVAT's to Cactar, Alex19, and unranked Rocky, who currently sits at 7th on the NorCal PR. Lastly, let's move over to each player's head-to-head record against some of the top talent they've both played this year. SVAT beats out Axe in 3 of these 10 head-to-head win rates, listed with Axe not having any wins on HBox, Plup, or Chew. On the other side, Axe has better win rates against 4 of these other players, as well as having a better record in the head-to-head versus SVAT, which gives him the clear W in this category. So with all of this in mind, I'd give Axe the 7th place spot for this year, only by a slight margin. Barring any tremendously awful or overwhelmingly good performances by the two in the last month of the Melee It On Me year, this is where I think the rankings will stay. Then coming in after these two is Wizzrobe in the ninth slot for the year. Wizzrobe has had a great year despite the fact that he's only gone to 18 events, with performances such as his 2nd place finish at Smash Rivals, where he took a set off both Mewtwo King and Hungrybox, and his undefeated win at Low Tier City 5 over Lucky, Hugs, and Cyrox. He's within striking distance of being at the same level of play as Axe and SVAT, so 2018 for Wizzy will be all about showing that his calculated style of Falcon has staying power at the top. And for the final spot in the top 10, there are 2 big contenders in my book. Chudat, who currently boasts 2 winning records on Gods for the year, along with a win on Leffen, and S2J, who has been putting up solid performances all year by refining his more wild Captain Falcon style. This decision was quite hard for me to make, but what is important to keep in mind is what question is being asked for ranking the Melee It On Me Top 100. The question is worded as follows. Given the quality and quantity of work in 2017, if everyone entered 100 tournaments, who, on average, would place the best? And although Chu has some crazy high peaks for this year, like winning Battle of BC2 over Mewtwo King, he's had some terrible losses, like to the 50th ranked Chillin' Dude and the 70th ranked Kage, which isn't a good look for a top 10 player. And on top of this, Ices, and the same logic could kind of be applied to Chudat as a player, is a high variance character that can either steamroll competitors or run into a brick wall depending on the character and player it runs into in bracket. So as crazy as it sounds, I think Chudat, with his 7 wins against Gods for this year, should be ranked 11th, and S2J should be ranked 10th because of Chu's lack of consistency and his sharp decline that has him on track to fall much more significantly next year. Yeah, so that's about it for this video. Sorry I can go more in depth on every single debate that's going on with here. This video would be stretched way too long, but I feel like I gave a good explanation of my decisions at each level, and I'd love to hear where you agree with my list, where you disagree. Is my top 10 anything like yours? Are there just 1 or 2 things that you would swap from mine? I'd love to hear down in the comments. I know people are going to disagree with me. I feel like most of it will probably be coming at the Mewtwo King Plup one, and probably the Chudat S2J one. The Chudat S2J one was a really hard decision for me because like I came into it and I couldn't understand how people were justifying putting a guy who has 7 God wins. He's 2 winning records on 2 Gods, not in the top 10. But when you look at it more and you think about the question that's being asked and how Chudat has been gone decline lately and people have been figuring out that matchup more and figure out Chu's play style, like how Mango has like completely turned it around recently and he's able to handedly win games against Chu now. I think that trend is trending more towards Chu dropping down to wherever he was at the beginning of 2016 after he made a huge jump up. And yeah, I think that's about it. I just wanted to express more on that one because I feel like I didn't fully develop that in the video, and I feel like that's going to be the biggest pressure point for people in comments. But yeah, I've been SaveAsUntitled. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want previews of videos coming out, go check me out on Twitter at SaveAsUntitled. I tweet Melee-based stuff and mainly previews for videos and when my videos come out in case you don't get the notification on YouTube because YouTube sucks sometimes. You can go support me over on Patreon if you want videos early. You want to vote on a video. The new vote for this month's video hasn't happened yet, so if you're interested in getting a topic done, you can talk to me on Patreon, and you can always suggest videos over here if you want, but on Patreon, you're guaranteed to get your suggestion once a month. You guys get the pick. And I think that's about it. So I've been SaveAsUntitled. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Boy, you're just 13. broken dreams.